Welcome to another episode of Creatorcast. This week we have myself from Gives a Minute. I'm Benon. We have Scott Muir from YouTube in Melbourne. How you going, Scotty?
Very good, mate. How about yourself?
Feeling great, man. Feeling great. We got Danny Black there from Where is Danny Black? How you going, Danny?
Good.
Oh, he's got a little two thumbs up there, you animated little bugger. We don't have Jay Boston with us this week. Unfortunately, he's out of action on a trip to Bali, the little bugger. Of all the places to go to when it's freezing cold here in Australia, he's off there in the warmth. Very jealous of you, Jay. If you happen to be watching, bring back some sunshine. Instead of Jay, we have a special guest with us this evening. Special guest, reveal yourself. We have Jonathan Creek from Melbourne, Australia, a second Melbourne person to add to the mix.
It.
Jonathan, g'day, man. How you going?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
I'm very good.
Well,
Creaky.
It's always good
just
to
a
have
little
Melburnian.
backstory to Jonathan Creek.
Thank you.
More Melburnians, the better.
Let's let them have their Melbourne time together. If you are watching from Australia, you might remember Jonathan Creek from mainstream television. He was on all over the shop, all over the current affairs programs as an investigative reporter. He spent many years on television. It's really exciting to have someone from that realm come over to this realm. And that's what we want to focus on tonight on this conversation. I want to find out from Jonathan, how is it coming from that world of television and jumping across to YouTube? Because Jonathan has a YouTube channel. We'll put a little up the top there and you can check out some of his stuff. Jonathan, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
How is your ride? How do you find YouTube in comparison to your older life on the terrestrial television?
Yeah, look, I think for me, naturally, YouTube was just such an easy transition because even though I'd only ever worked in television, like my very first job was in television, and it was the best job at Channel 9, was I had to watch every commercial before it went to air. So that was my first job. I thought this was amazing. I sat there, look, I don't want to say how old I am exactly, but it was like mid-90s. So it was every Pow Wow machine and Wacka Wacka and tablets and whatever. And, there was some really crazy ads going around at that time. And, I just was always in love with video and video storytelling. And so getting into TV was my thing. Just from the age of 13 or 14, I just said, I'm just going to be a TV reporter. And then, I got into Channel 9. I had this job where I was looking at ads. And as painful as that was, what it allowed me to do is work out the ads that I remembered and why, but also what was annoying. And so I became very sensitive to this sort of stuff. But my push was to always become a journalist. And, everyone around you says, oh, you're going to be the next Eddie Maguire. Do you want to be Eddie Maguire? Do you want to do sport? And I never wanted to do sport. And, I was like, no, I just want to meet people and tell their stories. And, so for me, even when you get to a TV station and you go through interviews, and I did jump from one channel to another, and they always ask you, so how long is it going to be before you want to sit behind the desk and read the news? And I think I was probably the only person ever that said, no, don't ever put me behind the desk and read the news, because I don't want to sit in a cold studio and read someone else's words. I actually want to get out there every day, not knowing who I'm going to meet and what story I have to tell. So for me, I was after that freedom of storytelling. And in a way, current affairs, where I was working in current affairs TV and news. News was 90%, you just had to report the facts, and 10% creative. Current affairs allowed you to flip it over a little bit more towards being creative with some facts. Hands up in the air, I think everyone understands. Where YouTube, for me, just 100% allowed me to take control of the story I was telling and how I tell it. And I think, I think everyone in this community, and I'm only new to it, I've been studying it for a long time, but to actually get in and start a channel, I mean, I'm less than 10 videos on my latest channel. I did have a channel prior to that, which had a lot of my Channel 7 stuff on it, but copyright issues and all that sort of stuff, it got deleted. And so I'm sort of rebirthing and rediscovering this love of, telling stories, but also observing how other people tell stories. And I'm not going to blow wind up you guys, but, Ben, on the way you tell stories compared to how Danny tells stories, I just love how people see things differently.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's I take that as a compliment. Even Danny, I've always said about you with your narration over the tops and retelling a story. I'd love to be able to do that.
But see, if you
Jonathan,
sorry, can I cut in? Sorry, I don't want to cut it short.
Yeah, go for it.
And I suppose the point I'm trying to make there is if you look at television, particularly news reporters, and I talk about this when I get up in front of crowds, is that just one day, do yourself the favour, because not many people do it anymore, go and watch the 6 o'clock news, right? But don't watch it for what stories they're telling. Just close your eyes and listen to the language that they use. News reporters use their own language. I call it journalese. They speak like no one else in the world, and it's actually an effect of the machine. Right? They use words like decamp and, stuff that humans don't use in real life, right? And for me, this is why the hashtag fake news is taking off, because people are cutting them out now and saying, hold on a minute, I get so much real content in my life that now when I turn on the 6 o'clock news, you guys are out of touch.
Yeah.
You guys aren't connected.
Yes.
You're not talking the way I talk.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of YouTube.
I don't watch it. I personally don't.
Do you watch Philip DeFranco?
In fact,
me, yeah.
Yeah. I'll see anything on the news and I'm like, I'm gonna see what Philip DeFranco has to say before I really invest myself into it. And it's just weird because
it'll be on the
That's exactly where
I get all my
I was
gonna say I get all my news from the internet, blokes like Phil and stuff like that. It's I rarely turn the TV on these days. I mean, that's the world we live in now, really, isn't it? It's all right there at your fingertips.
Yeah.
24/7. I turn my TV on and it's Apple TV, YouTube. So
yeah.
Yes.
Although
just touching on two of those things that you mentioned there, Jonathan. You mentioned watching commercials as your first gig.
Yeah.
The obvious question there is what stood out back all those years ago? What's a funny commercial that you still remember that we might be able to track down and splice in here as well?
Oh, the Ken Bruce has gone mad ads. You might not have got those outside of Victoria. See, look, Scotty knows, right? So Ken Bruce, he was part mad, part genius, as they usually are, and I loved his because if you actually watch them over time, because every maybe quarter we'd get a new Ken Bruce ad, and there would always be throwbacks or connections to previous ones that only astute watchers would pick up on. So they always had little hooks and stuff. And as a kid, I was always fascinated with these old books that my grandfather gave me called the Cole's Funny Picture Books. I don't know if anyone's ever seen those, but they were like Cole's Funny Picture Books would have these really artistic drawings, but they'd have things hidden in them, almost like the hook in the old Richard Scarry books that you had to find, and then you progress on to Where's Wally and all that sort of stuff. But Ken Bruce or whoever was producing his ads sort of had a bit of that about him. And so for me, I'd always wait for a new one. Whenever I saw it on the spine that this was a Ken Bruce ad, I couldn't wait to, I had to lace them up. I mean, this is before, VHS even. You had to lace them up, and I couldn't wait to sort of go back and look for all the magic.
Lacing it up, that's a like beta cam.
Oh, it was like a big BVU machine. So I've probably been cooked from the inside because of the electromagnetic radiation coming out of these things. But you had to lace them up like an old movie projector.
Wow, awesome,
yeah.
Awesome. Now, just jumping forward a little bit to your reporting, I did see on your channel that you were actually reporting the 9/11 news as it came to happen. For those that haven't seen this video, can you just walk us through your day that day, just hitting those highlight points and just talk us through how that all went down? It's still very fresh, isn't it?
It's pretty raw, and I don't think there's many people in the world who lived through that event that still doesn't feel something when you bring it up. Definitely. For me, it was an interesting time because I just moved from Channel 7 in Adelaide to Channel 7 in Melbourne. So I was pretty much the pup in the pack, I suppose, and still trying to cut my way through. And I remember it was about 10 to 11 at night, and my dad rang me and said, channel, your producer from Channel 7's just rung. You're not answering your mobile. He wants to speak to you. So I rang him, and he just said, Creeky, you're going to want to get in here. And so basically I just got in my car and drove to Channel 7 at 11 o'clock at night. And, when you sit in a newsroom like that, you've got, I think it was something like 37 televisions in one room. So wherever you look, you're seeing stuff. And basically I got in there, and they said, you're the first guy in. Just start watching it, start logging it, just work out what's going on. Because back then we didn't know, right at the start, we didn't even know if it was an accident or whether it was an act of terror. I mean, really, terrorism wasn't on anyone's mind before that night. So it was like, oh, gee, how did the pilot manage to do that sort of thing? And you get this black humor in these times when you're a journalist. And then I just remember sitting there.
When you say you were told to log it, that means watching all the different feeds coming in from all over the world and just keeping everything scheduled and together.
Yeah,
so you can compile something later on. Is that right?
Yeah, so you're going to be making a story for this in the morning for the breakfast shows. We don't know quite what's going on. Let us know. Keep it in track. But we basically just had the American networks on, so we had probably 4 or 5 American networks. And I remember sitting there with an editor whose name's Anthony, and he loves YouTube too, so he may even be watching this. And we remember the moment we were watching all these feeds. Hey, Anthony, he's a great guy. We're sitting there with like 4 TVs in a little edit booth, no bigger than probably 2 phone boxes. Middle of the night, no one else around, and a newsroom's a pretty eerie place when it's quiet because it's always usually so busy. And we're sitting there and we're just sort of talking, saying, "Oh man, how could they do this? How they could do this?" And the next thing we sort of saw this new angle, and the plane flying into the building from a new angle. And I remember him saying, "Oh, have a look at that! It's a new angle." And we sort of looked at it and I went, "Oh wow, is that a new angle? Hold on a minute. How could it be a new angle if the second building's on fire already?" And that was that moment of, holy guacamole, this is more than what we're looking at. And then it became super serious. And from that moment on, my job was to produce the first package to go to air at a special 8 o'clock bulletin in Australia. And so my job was to inform everyone who, had gone to bed and didn't know about it when they woke up in the morning, what's happened. And at that time, we truly thought we were facing the start of World War III, and in a way, we probably have. It's just a war that isn't traditional like the other world wars.
Yeah.
So that was still gives me shivers. And I didn't go home. I don't think I went home for like a couple of days. Just in the same clothes in that newsroom.
I was awake all night when that happened because in Australia it started, as you said, just around about 11 p.m. I'd just gone to bed. Then my mum came in my bedroom, which is really, really rare. Like since I was a kid, mum's never just walked into my bedroom at night.
Yeah.
And she came in and she's thrown the door open and, quick, come out. They're bombing America. They're bombing the Trade Center. I was like, what? And then the next thing, I'm pretty much there all night just watching this. Yeah. But anyway, it's not my story. It's just interesting to hear that from a news reporter who was there on the front lines, if you like, as far away from the site as possible, but we still had to have our reports as well.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much, it's just amazing how there was so much stuff that we saw in the feeds that has never seen the light of day since. And I think that's really important when you think about what goes on YouTube sometimes and people crossing the line.
Are you talking about conspiracy?
And not having that. No, not conspiracy, just respect.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, just being respect for people.
Yeah.
And I think we all. Right. I'm not going to take it back to the Logan Paul thing, but that's a great example of having a lack of respect.
Yeah.
In a way, and we're very privileged to have YouTube in our lives or the internet or whatever. We can broadcast whatever we want, but I think it's really important for anyone to sort of just understand, as much as you may hate mainstream media companies, you may hate the game that they play. In that moment, I can stand there and say there is so much stuff that we saw that no one has ever replayed. In a way, shocking scenes.
That's interesting. I feel like that's a really interesting discussion to have. Danny, you brought up conspiracies, but I feel like that could take this really, really in depth and a totally different trajectory. But I mean, sure, we could talk about that another time.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you're under NDAs and whatnot to not disclose anything that you've seen, because obviously that's a huge, huge discussion. You know, there are so many conspiracy theories and so many this and that's about what happened that day. But that's not what we're looking for tonight. But it's just lovely to hear you talk about that from someone sitting there in that newsroom and having to comprehend that and deal with it and then deliver something in the morning when everyone else is asleep.
I don't want to make
Well
light
done.
of the situation, but I thought you were heading towards conspiracy theories lately, Ben. On
With
No,
flat
no,
earthers, yeah,
with the
geez, that's
and
UFOs.
UFOs
And the
and the
UFO.
UFOs.
and the UFO.
That was
You're
weird.
Australia's Fox Mulder.
Mate,
That was a weird.
Bigfoot's
dude,
next.
if you haven't seen that video, have a look at it. I
Oh
filmed
no,
a
I
UFO.
saw it.
No,
I saw it.
What is it? What?
I think
I
it's
was
a
talking to
helicopter.
the viewers there as well.
Oh yeah, sorry. I don't want to blow it.
What are your thoughts, Jonathan?
I think it's a
you would
helicopter.
have seen
Yeah, but it was 2.5 hours.
Helicopter?
As you said,
Yeah,
2.5
okay.
hours, right?
that time lapse was out there for almost the
But
entire
you
length of the GH5
someone
battery,
did the math.
so 2.5
Someone did the math,
hours.
and they said from that light, when the first light used, like it was 2.5 hours of that light being out there. That's way longer than a helicopter would typically be out there doing that.
Yeah, I mean, this area is well known for the military base, the RAF or the army or whatever it is, and they are doing tests, and they are doing, you know, in the daytime you'll see them drop people in the ocean, then pick them back up on winches and all that kind of stuff. It's possible, but it doesn't move like a helicopter to me. Anyway.
But it's but just give us the specs again on that time lapse, because I love this stuff, right? I've got that
Right.
type of brain.
Security.
So let's get this.
It's my favorite
Huh?
channel. It's my favorite channel.
Secure Team 10, yeah.
I
I
love that
reached out to
channel,
them, they
man.
never
It's
got
so
back to me.
good to
but-
watch. Anyways, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
It's so good. Sorry,
So
keep going.
how many frames were you taking on that?
So each frame is 30-second exposure. So it's literally open the shutter for 30 seconds and then closed. And then the interval is 12 seconds, and then the next frame opens up for 30 seconds and closes down. And it did that repeatedly from the moment I put that time lapse down until the battery was pretty much, because it still had a bit of juice in it, but I know that when I've done time lapses out there for the whole battery, it's about 3 hours, 10 minutes, and the battery's dead. This time I brought it in at about the 2-hour 50 mark because it started to get a little bit condensation.
Sure.
And 2.8 on the aperture, and ISO 1600 due to the noise. So it's whatever it is, it's in that space for a long time.
Well,
And then it's just it jarts around.
It's one of
Crazy.
those. It's one of those new government helicopters we don't know about yet, do we? So it was flying out there for 3 hours.
Could be.
It's weird.
Jonathan, let's jump up a little bit as well.
Sure.
So on your website, excuse me, jonathancreek.com.au,
That's the one.
you do a lot of stand-up speaking and public engagements, and you're talking a lot about virality and how you can achieve virality. That's another strange word in this language. Virality. Am I saying that
I have
right?
an emoticon
Virality.
for you, Ben. On.
Yeah.
There you go.
You got that's me right now. That's how I
The
feel.
glass.
It's more up here though. It's like what is going on in my head? Virality.
Virality.
So yeah, you talk about that, how you can achieve like possibly some kind of like a recipe for virality. Walk us through that, and what are your thoughts on how to achieve virality?
Well, to send stuff viral, right? So when I was still in mainstream media world, I was fascinated with the fact that I could do stories. Like I could work really hard on a story. It'd be the greatest story in my career. This is fantastic. And I'd still lose the ratings to a show about cheap chicken on the other channel, right? That really cut me up a couple of times. So I started looking for answers. And one of the things that really fascinated me, because YouTube was around, so this is around 2011, 2012. So YouTube been around a couple of years, and videos were going viral by email pretty much still then. So, people would just send links. And what was fascinating me was that, I could be out there in the field spending or using almost $1 million worth of gear, cameramen, crews, producers, trucks, helicopters, whatever at my disposal, yet there could be a kid with a really bad VHS camera almost shooting in 8-bit with 1 million views. And I'll just be sitting there going, how is this possible? And then as I developed that, what I started to do in my stories on mainstream TV is I started to look at what was working online, and I would feed some of that stuff into my own stories, almost as a bit of my own Mr. Hook or Where's Waldo sort of stuff. So I had a lot of in-jokes going, and my original YouTube channel, Rest in Peace, would sort of explain what I was doing. So, for example, I was made to work Grand Final Day one year. I think it must have been about 2008, guessing. And one of the famous sports presenters who's still there, so I won't name him, made a bet with me for $100 that I couldn't name or use the names of every Spice Girl in my lead story for the news that night. And so, I was doing these
awesome.
little tricks that had an audience online that appreciated what I was doing and thought that this was quite hilarious. And so I did. I got every name of the Spice Girls into what was called, the grand final colour package for that year. And putting Ginger into a football package was not that easy, but I achieved it.
Just talk about Cameron.
I think
what's
more interesting about that is the fact that you know the names.
Oh,
of those
shut up!
Spice
Everybody
Girls.
knows them.
There's nothing wrong with the Spice Girls, Ben on. You guys going to be your new T-shirt next week. You're going to have a new T-shirt, Spice Girls. I'm going to buy it for
Time
you.
to spice it up. Sorry, Scotty, we cut you off there.
I was
mate.
just going to say, if you want to drop Ginger and you just had to talk about Cameron Ling, and you would have had a Ginger there. I don't know how you got Baby into it, but...
Yeah, I got Baby in there. That was pretty good. But basically what I started to develop was I wanted to understand why stuff was going viral or spreading online, and whether there was a one script fits all, because I came from a pretty structured background where we were taught story frameworks. That was the framework you had to stay within. If you're on the news, it's called a 10 and 50, 10-second intro, 50-second package, and it was structured. Grab, voiceover, piece to camera, voiceover, end, right? That was it. That was just the structure we had to stick to. I wasn't into sticking with structure, so I even started to change the current affairs structure, and I was moving it towards what I was seeing moving online. And so around 2011 or 12, I started to look for this one script fits all for viral videos. And it took, I gave myself 6 months to sort of search my own PhD on viral content. And 4 years later, I came out with what I call the spread factor, which is actually an algorithmic formula that I was using with big brands to measure whether people would share their content. So I would sit there with some of the big banks who would make a video, maybe they'd spend $500,000 on a video, and we would play it to an audience of their key demographic, and they'd use my formula to see whether it would spread. Now, the formula was out of 100. If they scored over 80 out of 100, we knew within an accuracy of about 87% that they would share that video. And that was pretty cool, right? I was like, wow, this is awesome. Until one day, a quite astute businessman in Melbourne said, yeah, this is great, but I've already spent my $500,000. How can you tell me how to do it before I spend the money?
Yeah.
And I remember driving home down the Eastern Freeway here in Melbourne just going, oh my God, this guy's just ruined my business. Right? How do I get around this? He's right. And so, I spent the next 2 years, I wrote a book, which hopefully comes out this year, called Virable, The Art and Science of Viral Videos. And I run workshops where I work only with small to medium-sized businesses about it. And the truth of the matter is there's no script that fits all, but there's a sequence of triggers that you have to hit from a neuroscience psychology point, depending where you start from. So everyone's got a viral DNA, and it's different. So it's about unlocking the code to your own. The problem is, what we see on YouTube is everyone tries to copy the winners.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't copy the winners. I get influenced heavily. I put my hands up by, people would say I get influenced by Casey Neistat. A lot of people do. But, I was shooting time lapses and talking to the camera and vlogging before I even found Casey. Um,
I think we
but
all have been
he
doing that.
inspires me now to tidy
We've all been
it
doing-
up, and he makes it clean. So.
If you're gonna dissect, I mean, I'd love for you just to say, here's how to make a viral video. But I understand it's not that simple, not that easy. But if you're gonna dissect someone like, say, Casey Neistat, or even like our mate Logan Paul, what can you tell us that fits into what you've just said that he does to make his videos viral, or is that a separate thing? Is his virality just because of the children and the size of the children? Or
it's not
the
I don't think the size of the children is in there eating too much McDonald's.
No, I mean the
Obesity
vastness of
of
them,
the
like the
children?
mass of.
Yeah, like, and then this is the next thing, right? So things are evolving. Now, what's really interesting is that a lot of the modern day vloggers use a format that I worked on when I was in current affairs in Australian TV. Now, when I first got into TV, current affairs TV always started with the reporter with a piece to camera, and he'd stand there and he'd go, we're here in this sleepy town where two neighbors can't get along and blah, blah, blah. And they'd put themselves at the front. And I found that incredibly not off-putting, but just self-indulgent. Yeah, they'd put themselves right at the start of their story. And I don't want to insult anyone, but my opinion is that they're doing it so their mum could see them and their mum could say, oh, here's so-and-so on the TV, or here's so-and-so on whatever. Where I thought, no. What we've got to do is we've got to create, we've got to go back to Walt Disney story structures where you have a villain and you've got a hero and you've got to have some angst in it. And so basically I would start my stories with a fight if I could. I'd create one. I'd say, okay, here's the villain, here's the hero. We'd put some music and fast cuts in between. Yeah, I was renowned for con man chasing. That was my thing. So I always chased bad builders and plumbers and con men. Like I would con the con men. That was my specialty. So, I always just waited for that chase down the street. Some guys are chased down the street for 5 or 6K. Just annoying. And I was just a pest. And, I had a great night. If I got punched, it was a great night. Like I knew my story was made because the first step to a viral video, which is the first step to a great story on mainstream TV, is you've got to catch their attention. Now, nothing catches someone's attention as getting punched.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Or a dead body.
No. Well, that'll turn half the people off. But, getting punched or action or not knowing why, your brain is instantly going to get this, what I call an intrigue point, and they're going to say, I've got an unanswered question. This is your brain operating separate to your person, right? Saying there's an unanswered question. I'm now going to hang around and engage because I want to know why he got punched.
I like that. That's smart.
Yeah.
The unanswered
Very
question.
true.
Right? So
I
that's
like
the
that.
start. And you get that with the YouTubers. Logan Paul gets it. Hey, what's up, Logang? Bang, bang, bang. But there's a little tease at the start that's like, oh my God, did he just crash his car, or did he, did someone just paint that billboard? And that's what everyone has to do in their storytelling. Now, the next thing that you got to do is you got to start telling stories, because there's some story frameworks. There's about 7 of them, which are really well known, which will actually hijack the attention in your brain. So your brain is the most selfish organ in the body. So I don't know if you understand it, or you tried this when you. Sorry, I keep looking at on my screen when I should be looking up here.
It looks the same. I think
you might have tried this with your snorkeling mask. If your snorkel mask fails and you start to drown, guess what your brain does? My
brain thinks, get this on the vlog.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, are we rolling? But what your brain will actually do, your brain will steal oxygen from other organs in your body to the point where they die, so it can be the last to die. That's how selfish it is. So here's the thing. When it comes to storytelling, guess what humans spend 30% of their time doing every waking hour?
30%.
30% of you being awake, your brain spends daydreaming.
Sex.
No, daydreaming.
Right then.
Right? And what daydreaming is the process of the brain telling itself a story. Right? But when the brain has to do it, the brain has to work. And the brain's selfish. The brain doesn't want to work. It's doing a lot of things. Are there predators? Are there saber-toothed tigers? Am I safe to go here? Am I going to get run over? Have I got enough calories to get to work? Yeah, it's doing a lot of things. It's monitoring a lot of things. So then to entertain itself also takes work. So here's the thing. If you can tell the brain a story, first grab its attention and then let it know that it's going to get a story, the brain will lock itself into that. It will put up defense mechanisms and say, right, I'm not going to get interrupted because I'm in a story, because I can actually save energy and I don't have to do the work. Benon's doing the work for me because he's telling me a story. Now, my kids know that I teach this, so guess what my kids do when they watch television? Go clean your room.
Try to dissect?
Hey, Phoebe, go clean your room. Nothing.
Television.
Yeah, I can't blame her anymore for not listening. She's engaged in a story, watching Gravity Falls or whatever it is she watches nowadays. You know, her brain locks her out. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
So this is the thing.
How does that play into so we hear this term quite often on YouTube, evergreen content that's constantly searchable. And in my case, I mean, I don't have what I would consider a viral video, but I have a video that keeps rising in views because of the nature of the content. It's a searchable product that people are coming back to. It's almost summertime in the Northern Hemisphere, so now I'm getting traffic from up there that are searching for this snorkel mask. How does that play out into that same? I mean, do those two things tie in together?
No, that's a different space, but you can still put the strategies into your video. So that snorkel mask video is still a story. You're going on a journey. You've got a hurdle that you have to get over, or a challenge, right? And the challenge is to see if it works, right? So your actual journey of going down the beach, putting it on, testing if it works, the way that you tell that, you're actually taking people on a journey. So you are tapping into the stories. What you're doing to get your traffic is you're actually relying on search terms. And that's a marketing play that a lot of people do with Google ads. They do them with Facebook ads, or more Google than Facebook. But you know, you're playing on searchable terms.
Can you then have a video about kind of like nothing, really, like a video about nothing, but if you have that same pattern where you're taking a journey, you're experiencing hardship, you're overcoming the hardship, and you're resolving everything, even if it's about nothing, like just walking out there and going down to the beach and walking along the sand.
Yeah, but
you encounter a hardship, the sand's too hot. Oh, I've got to get some thongs on.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Can you roll that into anything?
You can. I mean, if you look at a lot of, if you really look closely at a lot of the top vloggers, if you were to say to someone, hey, I'm going to watch this video today about a guy reviewing memes like PewDiePie does, you'd go, really? What, he doesn't go out of his room? But that's not PewDiePie's journey is from when he started. His story's not in one episode. He just adds a little bit every time. Right, so he's it evolves. Like last couple of weeks ago he got married. And that's part of his story. It's still going. Roman Atwood's a bit the same as well. Started off as a prankster, now becoming a family man, and he's growing up on YouTube with the people who are actually watching him. If you look at their audiences, they're mirroring the people who are their audiences. So they're living the lives that people want to live. So they're almost reflecting their own audience in a way. So it's a life story.
And then you have people such as Logan Paul, which is an anomaly, really. I mean, if you think about what you've just explained, and sure that works in certain situations, but then you look at something like that, and I'm not just referring back to the dead body video, but just in general, his entire the presence that he creates on YouTube is not virality; it's just sheer numbers, isn't it? Is that what we're talking about here?
No. So when you look at the Paul brothers, both of them, but particularly Logan, you got to go back to Vine. And Vine, being only 7 seconds to make your videos, you had to be really tight. Now, what most successful Viners did, and David Dobrik does it as well, and Logan and Jake, they did. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but they fell into it, maybe you could say, but they do it. They were using the 3-act play. Now, the 3-act play is a really well-known story framework, and basically, it's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. You start with a problem, you go through the journey, and then there's a lesson. Now, all they've done when they've gone to YouTube is just stretch that out. Now, here's the thing. The Body in the Forest episode for Logan is actually a great Act 2. here's this journey. Oh my God, this is blown up. What a disaster. Will he ever survive? You've got all the drama channels going. Logan Paul's career is dead. YouTube's dead. Same thing happened with PewDiePie. Right? Everyone thought, but it actually just adds to the journey. It actually adds to the intrigue, the brain of the viewers going, man. We're talking about Logan Paul right now.
Yeah.
We're not even his viewers, right? Will he survive? Will he get back?
Yeah. How do we ensure that he doesn't?
Hey,
no.
Just because Jay's here doesn't mean.
No, I'm being genuine here. Like, how can we, as the viewer, so the one that he's putting the act on for, how can we say to him, we're leaving the theater because we think this Act 2 sucked and we don't care about Act 3?
Yeah, well, I think when it's only really fresh in terms of a cycle, and he went up afterwards. I think he gained 3 million subscribers on the back of it, but that's because of the outrage on mainstream news. And so I think what you're finding there is you're getting a lot of parents subscribing to him to check what their kids are watching. That certainly happened in my circles around my kids. But I think over time that'll die off. People spiral out. But here's the thing about viral videos that really is the key. You got to get the attention, then you got to lock the brain into the story. Now, locking the brain into the story is all about keeping people there longer. Now, the longer you have someone watching, the more chance you've got of filling the emotional trigger bank. So there's a little switch inside the brain which triggers a physical response. Exactly the same way that if you've ever cried in the movies, if a movie can make you cry, a video can make you share. And that's what it is. So it's the brain getting to a point where it fills up and it goes, I'm going to react. And the physical reaction on a viral video is to share it. Now, the ego drives a lot of that, particularly, for me, in my own world, I'm the Star Wars guy in my friendship circle, particularly on Facebook. So if there's anything new that's Star Wars, I'm the one sharing it. If someone else in my circle creeps on me and beats me to sharing something, I take it personally. You know what I mean? So I go.
So you have an emotional response.
Yeah, I'll watch Star Wars stuff and say, okay, this is good enough. This is good enough for my brand. This is new. This is exciting enough. I'm going to share it because it looks good on me being the Star Wars guy in my circle. Right? But if someone else comes in and starts creeping on it, I'm like, no, that's my patch. I'm going to beat you to it, and I'll work harder to share it. So I'll have the physical response quicker.
Creeky. I feel like if we ever had a creator cast retreat, which we're looking for something in like early next year, would you come and speak at? I think you'd be really good speaker at that.
I'd love to. Any opportunities. My push now is I'm not plugging anything, but I've worked a lot to get a business model around this work that I've done. And speaking is the main push on that. So I'll take any opportunity to speak to anyone. I just want to share what I know, and hopefully it helps. And that's all I'm about.
We'll come up to the Wit Sundays. We'll have a boat for you.
Wow, I love the Wit Sundays.
Yeah, we'll chat about that. Don't give away too much information about what you'll be talking about. It's really interesting stuff, though. I really like it a lot.
Yeah. The whole time I'm sitting here, the whole time I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, why isn't there someone like you talking at VidCon? Which is half the reason we started this stuff. So it should be something you should try and reach out to, mate. Because we left that place going like, this is the sort of stuff we want to hear.
No, we left that place.
I'm glad you say that. I mean, because
not that stuff. This stuff is what Scott means.
Right and look, exactly. Let's get a little bit personal here. I lived a life reporting facts and information from other people. And, I became very comfortable doing that. But when you actually go off and do your own research and then you bring it to the world, like I haven't come up with this stuff by reading other people's books and regurgitating my version of what they do. I think what I've looked at and what I've pulled apart, and, I traveled the world speaking to different experts, not just psychologists, human behaviorists, movie directors, all sorts of different people to get the answers to this stuff. And I must be honest, about halfway through last year, I thought, well, maybe no one is really going to appreciate what I know. And you have that self-doubt. So, and I think a lot of people have that around videos as well. They're too scared to get on YouTube because they have this brain who's a selfish MO, right? Or MFO. and you want to tell it, shut up and have a crack. That's all. And I tell myself that every morning, just shut up and have a crack.
I reckon you should.
Does that mean we're gonna? Sorry, go.
I was gonna say, I reckon you should be doing daily videos, man. Like, honestly, like yeah.
Dude, you took it out of my. You took that out of my mouth. I was literally gonna say, does that mean we're gonna be seeing daily uploads from Creeky?
Wait, before you answer that, Creeky, is daily up? Like, no offense to Ben on it, is daily uploads a good idea still? Is that the right way? And I'm only saying that because Ben and I like what you do, anyways. So you're just in a different ballpark, but like for the rest of everyone else on YouTube. Is daily a smart thing to do or not?
Daily, well, it depends where the algorithm's at, right? And right now, the algorithm's telling you that they want, 80,000 minutes watched and 4,000 minimum subscribers. So however you can get to there. I mean, you guys are in a different position to me. I'm sitting here, talking about viral videos, and I've got, 54 subscribers?
55.
Yeah, it's almost people look at me and go, man, what are you talking about? And it's like, oh, well, it's not... I look at views as a vanity statistic, to be honest. Someone said on one of the forums the other day, I earn 80 grand a year and I want to be a business coach. And everyone was bagging him, saying, how could you be a business coach at 80 grand a year? No one wants to hear from a business coach who only earns 80 grand a year. And my response was, I reckon people who only earn 30 grand a year would love to hear from a business coach who earns 80.
Bingo.
Absolutely.
Nailed it.
And I'm the same, right? You don't have to have played AFL footballer to be a good commentator on AFL football.
Yeah.
I was going to say, or the really average footballer who becomes an extremely good coach.
Yeah.
I think the greatest coach in America, Belichick, right? Yeah. I don't think he ever played.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Wow. What are your thoughts on the same kind of topic that Danny just hit on, the daily upload? What are your thoughts on live? Because with a live stream, you can't really navigate that 3-act play as such.
Thank you. Yes,
you can. The 3-act play, which was developed by Aristotle. Oh, sorry, Danny's paused his back. So Aristotle delivered the 3-act play. So Aristotle sort of did similar to. I sort of just copied Aristotle. Aristotle was sitting there looking at all the performances going on for the emperors and all the royalty over in ancient Greece. And he was like, how come some people like some acts over others? What is it that they've got? And he stumbled and broke it down and came across the 3-act play. And that became the format for plays, right? News stories are similar. What's the structure that works the best? And it's how the brain files the information away and knows. So here's the thing. Once you learn story structures the way that I've learned them, I can watch the first 15 minutes of any Disney or Pixar movie, and I can pretty much tell you what's going to happen. Because right?
They all die.
No, they all die.
Who killed Bambi?
Here's
the thing with live, and I actually struggle with live because I like using other effects and other influences and beautiful pictures and scenery to set up my story. Mm-hmm. So when you flick live, you've got to do it all yourself. And a lot of that's in facial expressions, the way you talk, the way you connect with your eyes. And, a lot of people can struggle with that. And I think this is the biggest trap with live streaming. And you get all these social media gurus out there saying, you got to push the button, go live, stream live. No, don't stream live if you're just going to waffle. If you're going to sit there and talk for 20 minutes and waffle, I mean, some people might say we're waffling. I don't think we are. And I don't,
No way.
Right?
This is gold, this content.
That's
Seriously,
right,
I'm learning. I'm genuine. I'm learning heaps right now. I want to keep this going. How long we've been going? The longest we've ever been.
I know. I was sitting to say, let's cut this and say this part 1, part 2.
I'm here to break records.
I'm enthralled by this, man. We probably should wrap it, but I want to tie it back to the terrestrial television.
Yeah.
And just, and before I do that, Scotty, have you got anything you want to ask? Because I'm taking the reins here. And Scotty,
I just wanted to say to Creeky, do you subscribe to Gary V?
Yeah, I've followed Gary V for a long, long time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say because I just thought you'd get a lot from that. I can tell you have.
I've got an interesting story about Gary V. Is when I first started my company, Virable, which is viable viral videos. So how to make viable videos in your marketing plan, because if I go to
word's hard enough to start with.
That's right. If
I add two of the words together.
Yeah, so if I go to someone and say, they say to me, "Oh, you want a viral video?" The first thing I do is I look at, well, what are your capabilities? For me, I can make you a viral. I can spend $1 million and make you a viral video, but you don't have $1 million to pay me. So you got to work out what's in your viral DNA code, right? Gary Vee is interesting. I first came across Gary Vee around 2012, 2011, and man, I wanted to keep that guy secret.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was when he was fat. Like, it was Fat Gary. And I was like, man, this guy, I got to keep this guy secret. And, I actually have regrets. He talks a lot about regrets nowadays. He never used to. And my biggest regret is that I didn't start making content back when I first found him. I was too busy. I'd left a high-paying job. I had to, subsidize, make sure my family was safe and my well-being was safe, and in terms of financial future.
That's very important.
Yeah, I think it's important. Yeah, and there's always time for YouTube. So I think that's the problem with daily uploading, is that I've got to get out of my way sometimes. I want things to be a little bit dressed up and polished, and it becomes really hard in dailies because the business that I run is I don't want staff. I don't want to work for anyone else. I don't want to employ anyone, so I'm a one-man guerrilla filmmaker in a way. And so when it comes to doing this, I've got to do it myself.
There's a sacrifice there, isn't there? I mean, I'm sacrificing. Well, not really sacrificing, but I've chosen to be able to give everything to YouTube at the expense of, possibly like a relationship, definitely at the expense of a better paying job, at the expense of any of my other pursuits. It's all for me. It's all for YouTube, but I've decided that. So you've got to have what you just said, to be able to do the daily and to give the time to it. You have to be able to give up something, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think you went. I remember the moment that I met you, Ben, on, and let's not get too romantic here, but it almost is a love story in a way. That I remember when I met Ben on at the Tech and Gadget Expo, and he said, "Oh yeah, I do YouTube," and he saw me with the camera, and we got chatting around the skateboards, I think around Jed boards, and yes. I said, "Oh, what's your channel?" And the moment you explained Gives a Minute to me, I was like, can I swear? Oh, no, I don't want to swear.
You can swear.
Yeah, fuck. You can fucking swear.
I went, far out.
Say whatever the fuck you want. It's YouTube.
I said, far out. I love the internet. Like, I just love the internet because you find someone else's creativity. Like, I love it. And your ability to say, okay, I'm going to do 1 minute, a minute later every day and just live my life. I'm like, man, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah, incredible.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
I said, what a trooper.
It means a lot. It means a lot to me.
Yeah,
thanks, dude. Yeah.
Great idea. Like, great creative
when you told me about your story and where you come from and your history and the news and all the reporting, I was like, dude, this is a guy that I want to know, because I want to know, and this is where I want to wrap it up with.
Danny, can you play the love song?
I want to know what love is.
We're having a little love. We're having a little.
And I want you to show.
Danny, I'm not cutting you off here. You don't have a question that you're.
I have two questions.
Sorry, Ben, I'm too cheeky.
Oh, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I cut you off, Ben. I'm sorry.
Have you joined our group on Facebook? Facebook.com/group/CreatorCast.
Creator? Yes, I think I am.
Okay.
I think Ben put me in there.
Yes, just making sure.
I'll definitely make sure that I am after this.
That's a good part of us going forward, is creating this community, and I think you'd be an excellent addition to that, answering questions or throwing things in there.
I'd be honored.
And the other question I have is, what are your, let's say, immediate plans with your YouTube channel? Only because I subscribed to you a while back, but you haven't been posting very much.
Nah, that's my biggest demon, right? Consistency.
Just anything. I mean, you just posted one recently, but then, like, after that, yeah.
Yeah, I had one today. So I dropped one today, and I dropped one about Star Wars for Star Wars Day, but I had all sorts of I get really worried about copyright strikes, and I think that's the journalist in me, because we always have to go through such stringent processes in the music that we used and all that sort of stuff. And I remember when I was listening to you guys on CreatorCast a few weeks back, and I was asking about the copyright strikes, and they still make me a bit nervous. And the Star Wars one was really frustrating, because I actually got the Star Wars theme off YouTube's own music-free catalog archive thing.
What? It's in there? Really?
It's in there. It's the one done by the City of Prague Orchestra. And I used that, and I still got the strike. Huh. And then when I posted that video onto Facebook, some crazy cartoon mob came and put a strike on the lightsaber noises.
What?
Wow.
What?
On Facebook?
Yeah, and I'm like, and I was in the middle of filming another shoot for a client of mine, and I was trying to do it all, and so then I killed them. I said, I haven't got time to handle this today. I just turned them off. I just sacked them completely, and then I put them up a bit later. So that sort of killed it because I missed Star Wars Day, the timing, and that's really important. But you're absolutely right, Danny. Give me a foot up the rear end. I'm committing to weekly, so that I'm booking out my Fridays and my Sunday afternoons. So shoot Fridays, cut Sunday afternoons with uploads. And this is my promise to the world. And now that I'm saying it in public, people are going to... My 54 loyal subscribers, of which 6 are 55, about my family.
55, by the way.
55. Well, thank you, whoever hopped on today. Tuesdays, 8 o'clock a.m.
You know what I just thought of, man, just on the top of my head? This is the beautiful thing about the whole CreatorCast network and YouTube and Australia. You and Scotty are in the same city. Scotty, you explore abandoned buildings. Jonathan, you're an ex-news reporter. Scotty, take this guy out. Go to an abando, mate, and get Creeky to do it like it's a news report. That's a brilliant idea for a vlog.
The entire time
you could be the guy that's like.
Yeah, the time we've been the time we've been sitting here, I'm just thinking, Creeky's in the same city as me. What can we do here,
dude?
Yeah.
Hey, well, I chased the Cave Clan around at one stage in my career.
Yeah,
and you guys could be the modern.
Yeah, I know a few of the Cave Clan boys, so it's
do a follow.
That's another subject for another time.
I feel like you could be somewhat of you could do like a newscast, but make it a vlog. So not only are you holding this imaginary microphone, but you're also holding the vlogging camera in the other hand, and then you could get the footage of that. My mind's working overtime.
I've only got one rule with my channel, and my rule is that every story has to have a lesson, and so I use that investigative type stuff. So, if I go to something, I have to have a problem and I have to investigate it. So the one today is what makes something cool, and so I go.
Yeah, I watched it before we came on.
Yeah, so I go to a streetwear expo because I don't really know what's cool, and I ask them, and hopefully get an answer and help people.
Yeah, and the conclusion to that one was how do you make something cool is just express yourself, and if you express yourself genuinely, people will latch onto that.
Yeah, self-expression, and then you've got to work out how to discover your own self-expression. Right, that's episode 2.
Yeah, that's the one that you should do in the abandoned. Trying to find my expression here in this abandoned hospital. There's people that used to live here and they're all dying. I'm just thinking ahead. Jonathan, to wrap this up, because we have yacked on now, but I could sit here. I could go and get another glass of water and sit here for another hour
glass of wine.
without a problem. But
what? Aren't I good enough for the homebrew? Aren't I good enough for Ben On's homebrew?
You should go up. You should go up and collaborate with Ben On. You'd have some fun up there.
I don't drink alcohol, so there's a hot tip that not many people know. So I'm on the.
That's all right.
I drink the finest. Pepsi Max.
Oh,
that's my favorite.
That's cool. You just time your visit to in between brews when there's one brewing. Then that's when I'm not drinking, which is kind of where I'm at right now. I'm just letting a brew.
Wait. Can we let's. I'm sorry, we're yakking, but I just have to know because you're like probably the first Australian I've ever heard say, "I don't drink alcohol." Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I was just, I used to do triathlons before I was as fat as I am now, and I used to ride a lot on weekends, and I just basically trained myself out of it. And then I just went to a friend of mine's 40th. He's a bit older than me, and he's quite a successful. He put on a good party. Let me tell you, he had the coin for it, and I think I was dressed as Napoleon, and I slept in the garden, and then I walked home, which was like one of those Melbourne days when it's 35 degrees at night in the summer. I remember walking home at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and dad with 2 kids, and the kids wanted to go out and do stuff, and I just thought, no, these guys are too precious for me to be, not able to give my time to them, and I just can't cope with drinking the way that I used to. Some of the if there's any friends of mine from university watching, they'll be quite shocked. I used to try and be best on ground a lot of the times, but I just trained myself out it and couldn't handle it anymore, and so I just thought, well, it's no point. I'm just going to give it up. And I tell you, it's one of the I don't miss it for a bit. It's strange, not at all.
How long has it been?
Wow. Nearly 8 years.
Wow. I was trying to go the whole month of May without...
nothing.
It didn't go very well.
Yeah, no, it's just sugar's my thing though.
Yeah, sugar's tough.
Put chocolate or sugar or anything.
I try not to have a drink in the week.
No,
I just try to make it like a celebration at the end of the week kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I work from home now, and when you've got 2 young kids in primary school, the lolly bags they get from parties nowadays, man. I'm just in that pantry just trying to, I won't take too much from that bag. They'll know I've got to go to a new bag.
Yeah, well, lucky, man. They're probably watching this as well. Dad, we knew you took those strawberry raspberries. There was like 20 of them. Now there's only 10.
No, they can't watch because you've said the F word twice now, Ben on.
Yeah, Ben on. No, I've introduced a rule. My kids take after my wife. She hoards Easter chocolate. So she gets all her Easter chocolate and she eats it slowly. So I've introduced a rule where June 1st, any leftover Easter chocolate goes into the community basket, and that's available for anyone. And so I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for June 1st.
Pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
Well, look, Creeky, to wrap this up, I wanted to bring this back to terrestrial television and just ask you a pretty simple question, I guess. It might not be so simple, but how long do you think we will still have terrestrial television for?
Well, that bit really comes down to whether the governments are going to be prepared to support it. I mean, I think if you look at the car industry in Australia, it out-survived its business model for probably a decade longer than it should have, thanks to government funds. Tesla, as much as I love Tesla, it actually isn't a business that makes money without government support. And I think TV is the same. The business model is broken on TV. Now, look, I'm a shareholder of one of the networks in Australia, and when they're sending me reports saying that they're reporting a 90% drop in profit.
Wow.
90
drop in profit.
Crikey.
You got to sit there and say, well, hold on a minute. How long can you keep going? And this is the beauty. I've got my camera here. I got my drone. It's a 4K set out kit. I can run out, and I won't say too much, but I'm running out tomorrow to shoot something for a news channel. And, I can do it with gear that's probably cost me less than 12 grand. And if they were to do it, they're running out there with probably 2 or 3 people and gear in excess of 100 grand.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
So I don't want to be a stickler, but you didn't actually give us an answer. Maybe that's part of your training from the television days.
Yeah,
he's waiting for Act 3. Act 3 to tell us to reveal that information.
Yeah, this is Act 3.
I think that's a hard question. I think television
2022, 2025. What are we looking at here?
No, I think television via screens will always be around. I think TV's too set.
Always.
Yeah, I just think it'll be a different model. I think free to air TV is going to evolve into on-demand and shift viewing. Are you still going to be able to watch Price is Right? They've got a massive catalogue. If you look at the archives in TV stations, they've got hours, millions of hours of television that they could just sit there. And there will be people in Australia who want to go back and watch the old seasons of Bert Newton's New Faces. People want to watch that. They just need to get busy and digitise all their tape recordings. But it'll be subscription services on demand.
Who are those people, though? I mean, we're looking at a younger demographic coming through.
No, well, see, this is where the shift is the older demographic. So the greatest thing I did,
with respect to the elderly, they're passing on, like they're moving on to the next realm, the next ethereal plane, and leaving. They're dying, and they're leaving children behind who don't even know about television.
I'd flip your argument. I'd say that people are living longer than ever. There's never been a better time to market to older people.
And they have more money too.
They've paid their mortgages off. Now, here's the thing. I introduced my parents to Netflix and Stan over summer. They live down the beach here in Melbourne. And, my mum is a binge watcher now. When she used to just have the TV on the background when she was pottering around the house, she now sits there and will watch an entire season of The Crown in 2 days.
Right? My mum, right up there, exactly the same.
Right? So here we go. So here we got out of 4 people, we've got 2 people saying exactly the same thing. So
but no. That's not. When I refer to television, I'm referring to like the 9 network,
free to air,
7 network.
Yeah, no, it's going to shift.
10. Yeah,
it'll shift. I mean, here's my argument.
Maybe I should have been more. Maybe I should have been more specific with my question. But when are we going to see the death of channels 7, 9, 10, 2, and SBS here in Australia?
No, I think the ABC will be safe because it's considered an essential service. I actually believe that the ABC, and it was invented to be an essential communication service. So I think the ABC should evolve to digital, and it should only be online. I think the ABC should be shut down on TV and just be an online service.
So delivered via the internet. And
they're only there to tell people what's going on. They're not supposed to be there for entertainment. They don't make a profit. They should just be there to report what's going on without bias, which they struggle to do, let's be honest. But free-to-air, profitable television, they're going to have to evolve. And I think within the next 3 to 5 years, I reckon by 2023, we're going to see a completely different free-to-air TV setup. And I don't think it'll be free. I think it'll be with whichever phone company you're with, and it'll all get packaged in together. With your home insurance, with your car insurance, you'll get free TV.
And it'll all be owned by Kohl's.
They'll be cutting the pie 100 different ways. Yeah, whoever you shop with, if you spend $200 at Woolworths this weekend, we'll give you, 4 free days of watching something that you'd have to pay for otherwise. There's going to be deals everywhere.
I'm going to come out and say it. I reckon that's not what's going to happen. I reckon it's going to be a case of more and more content will be delivered on a delivery network such as YouTube. There might be competitors coming up. We've got Google coming to the game very soon with their whatever it's going to be. Amazon. I think there'll be other platforms to share video, and I think that will totally make these, like the idea of delivering television content through a screen via a main network like an ABC or a 7 or 9 or 10 or whatever, I think that's going to basically have to shift onto these platforms and have their own channel where they put up content that the people want to watch, because young kids in particular aren't going to stand. They're not going to be told that you have to watch this show at 4:30 and until 4:58, and then the next show starts. They're like, no. I'm playing my game here. I'm going to come back to that.
They're shifting.
I'm calling it. I say 2025. That'll be the start. Once Australia gets decent internet and it's kind of all like it's all over the country and everyone's using it by 2025, and I'm saying by 2030.
All right, I'm going to call mine. I'm going to call mine. I'm going to say at 2025. It's going to be the opposite of what you think. All this net neutrality crap is going to be coming up, and the internet's not going to be as free and as fun as it used to be, and people are going to be going back to TV shows more than ever. Now,
who here put up your hand if you watch Silicon Valley?
Sorry, I haven't watched it. I've been wanting to watch it, but I haven't.
So at the moment, on that show really does predict the future, a little bit like South Park, and they're talking about building a completely free second internet to avoid net neutrality and stuff. And that's what we're going to be faced with. And I think I always look at peak investment spends when I look at the future of television, and the Winter Olympics was a great example of, Channel 7, for example, had a Winter Olympics app where you got more in-depth access to athletes, more augmented reality type viewing. You could actually ski down the mountain. They had cameras in the athletes' helmets. You could actually really experience it and live it. That app was $25 for 3 weeks of content.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for an app. It's going to be. I think there'll be a level of free stuff, but the premium stuff that you're really going to watch or want to watch, you're going to have to upgrade your package.
Okay. that might sound like sad times ahead, folks. If you're in the same camp I am, I don't enjoy television. I don't watch it, but that's another story. Guys, I feel like we should wrap this up because we could just keep digging here. There's so much gold with this guy. We're going to have you back on again, Creeky, at some point if you've enjoyed yourself here. Yeah. And if anyone wants to see Creeky again, just leave a comment saying, get him back. And if you've got something you want to ask him specifically, leave it in the comments and we'll make sure we dig into that, not just in a comment, but we'll also re-engage in another chat like this.
And on our Facebook group.
Creeky, mate. And Danny's always the Facebook man. He's always promoting it. I keep forgetting, but we do have a CreatorCast group on Facebook. If you go to Facebook/groups/CreatorCast, you will find us.
Facebook.com/.
So please do that.
Same thing.
you know all that.
There he is.
And I've just realized we actually haven't told you. I'm going to call you Creeky now. I've been calling you Jonathan throughout the whole show, and I'm just changing it to Creeky at the end. Normally what we do is the guest will sort of close their connection, and then we will talk about the guest. So if you just want to say goodbye and then hang up the Skype call, but don't actually hang it up, just put your thumb over it like you did at the start, and then we'll just talk a little bit about you. Yeah, so awesome. Really nice having you here, though, Creeky. I've really enjoyed this, and we'll see you again soon, dude.
Hey guys, I just want to say thank you very much for having me on. I think you guys are doing great things to get a community around YouTube in Australia. I think too many kids are looking overseas to get their YouTube fix, and you guys are pioneering the Australian scene. And from the day that I met you guys, I was like, this is where I need to be. And you've made it so comfortable for any newcomers. You've never given me any hint of feeling threatened or just staying in a clique, and you're so open with your help. And you guys are a real testament to what humans can be, and I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
And thanks for watching.
Did you hear that? Give that a round of applause. Thank you, man.
Where is
Thank
it?
you.
Peace.
Thanks, mate. There he goes.
Well, Danny, Scotty, how about that for some truckloads of information? That was
I feel bad for Jay not being here. He probably leave it alone.
I know.
Yeah,
I was like,
Jay, you missed a goal.
I was actually just going to send a message to our little personal CreatorCast message we have between the four of us saying, Jay, you're really missing out here, mate. But I didn't want him to feel bad.
Yeah.
He's flying up to Bali.
Yeah. Incredible.
But yeah, we'll have to have him back.
Incredible wealth of information.
He's cool, and especially if we have our CreatorCast retreat, which we're off the record, on the record, I guess this would be, but something we're looking for in the future. I think that he'd be a great addition to that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And like I said in a little earlier, if you do have a question for Creeky, just put a comment and we'll either, we'll definitely reply, but we'll also bank those questions up, because I feel like that could be a launching point for a great discussion. One question often leads to a second, third, fourth, and he's got such a good wealth of information. And I think, we need to harness that information, and everybody can benefit from it. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please give it a like. And if you've enjoyed all of the episodes, go back and like them as well. I'm exhausted. It's been a long one. Thanks for the thumbs up there,
If
Danny.
you're still here,
We'll
watching at this point, write a comment and just say that you're still here after an hour and 8 minutes or whatever this has been.
It's true. It's been our longest episode, but I'll tell you, man, like I said, I could have done this a lot longer, and I'm sure next time we will. I'll bring out some homebrews and we'll sit here for a couple of hours chatting. But
could be a live stream.
For the time being,
could be a live stream, Ben on.
Could be a live stream. It could be. Could be.
All right.
For the time being, folks, it's time to cast that net wide and far out in the CreatorCast world. I just made that up.